So we're live now, I think. Um, Welcome to the latest episode of Kindness Magazine, also Vegan Health and Fitness Magazine, all combined together now. Who knows what it will become next. I'm B. Carey, formerly Brenda Carey, and today I have an amazing guest for you. I'm sure he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him a short one anyway. Dr. Doug Graham, the author of this amazing book, 80-10-10, which is basically the Bible for most raw foodists, not to be sacrilegious, but this book has got all the information that you need as to how to eat a healthy, raw vegan diet and do it right so that you will actually boost your performance as you do it. And I'll let him talk more about that and why raw is so awesome. And he has also want to say he's been such a huge influence on me. As most of you probably know, I've become a chef. I've come out with these 2 cookbooks, and Doug has influenced me a great deal in my thinking about food and preparation of food and doing it more naturally and being closer to nature. So excited to have this mentor and idol of mine here today. Welcome, Dr. Doug Graham.
Oh man, I'm so honored. Thank you, B. It's just a real treat to be with you.
Well, I'm so glad to have you once again to just say what an amazing honor it is to have somebody who's influenced me so much. I read your book years ago when we had you in Vegan Health and Fitness Magazine in the pages. I don't even know what year that was, but I remember being really impressed by this amazing photo that you sent us of yourself in a bathing suit, I think, and your body was just amazing. And I think at the time you were like 60 or something. And
Probably.
is that right?
Yeah.
And everybody in the office was just like, wow, you look so great. That's amazing. And, just I feel like this reminds me of how I was influenced by Robert Cheek, the bodybuilder who's vegan, that so often, people think, okay, well, I'm going vegan for the animals, and animal rights is really important to me. So I don't need to worry about exercising or eating healthy because I've done my part to save the animals, which is what I really care about. And I'm, just going to eat this, vegan diet, and they're not going to worry about health so much. But when you take good care of yourself and you look amazing and you have this vibrance and you're very active and doing all kinds of athletic things, which we're going to get into, that you're doing powerlifting over 70 now, which is amazing. But can we talk a little bit about why, if you eat healthy, you actually attract more people to veganism than if you eat vegan junk food and you end up with health problems?
Well, for reasons that aren't necessarily well-founded, and for reasons that are very much well-founded, people who look the part tend to be listened to a little bit more. People who live the part tend to be listened to a little bit more than people who don't. So although we might go to a doctor and he gives us some advice on how we can take better care of ourselves, if he's fat and smoking or whatever, and you just look and you go, oh, I would never eat that junk that he eats, but he gives great advice. Some people will still seek that advice. But a lot of times, if you just look like you're taking good care of yourself, that will influence more people. So when you look the part and you actually live the part, there's a respect level that develops where people go, not only do I see the outcome, I see the results, but I also trust that if it worked for him, it will work for me, or if it worked for her, it will work for me. Somebody's already gone down that road, rather than, well, here's what you should do. I'm not going to do it, but here's what you should do. I mean, that's, I think, a tougher pill to swallow than, look, I've been doing this for 20 years, or I've been doing this for 40 years, and it's worked for me every day for 40 years. you know, it's worked for thousands of people. Maybe you'd be willing to give it a try for a short period of time and see if it works for you too. Because all the science and all the common sense and all the results that we're seeing all say that it will work for you too. So it just makes for a stronger message.
Right. And my concern is, not just about vegans eating lots of junk food, but also all the supplements that they're taking. And I know of some really amazing, super healthy people otherwise who ended up passing away from probably complications to their liver. There's a lot of controversy about it, but people who are really into supplements. And I've heard so many vegans tell me that they don't worry so much about their diet. They just take a pill every day to get the nutrients that they need. And I think what's so amazing about the 80-10-10 diet and about eating raw and really paying attention to your nutrition is that when you are paying attention to what you're eating and looking at the nutrients that's in your food, you have this confidence about that your food is actually, as nature intended, supplying your body with everything that it needs to be optimally healthy. You don't need anything else. You don't need to take any pills and potions and things like that. A lot of them, I know Brian here is an attorney, does environmental law. He's actually been involved in some lawsuits where there was all kinds of contamination and heavy metals and things like that in supplements. And, besides that, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, in his book Whole talks a lot about the problems with supplements. But anyway, not to get too much into the supplement debate, but what I want to talk about is about how when you get all your nutrients from food and you disease proof yourself essentially by actually eating healthy, what a great message that is to the world to draw people towards veganism. It's showing how healthy that you are. And I know you were just mentioning, we can show people the science and we can, show them that actually we're living the life and it's working for us. But, beyond that, because my concerns about, disease and diabetes and heart disease, you can still get those things even as a vegan. Maybe a lot of people don't realize that, but Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn has been very good at explaining to people how even vegetable oils can clog your arteries, very similar to cholesterol. And so, let's talk about the health benefits and about avoiding disease. And if a vegan does get a disease, what does that do to our movement? It really hurts it. So it's really important that you keep yourself disease free, right?
Wow, that was a lot, and I didn't take notes, and now I realize I probably should have. But let me start. First of all, going through my medical training, I learned about supplements. I mean, I took every nutrition course offered, which was basically one a semester, and all the way through school, I studied nutrition and never stopped when I got out. So it's been a passion for the last 40 years. And one of the things we learned relatively early on is that our nutrient needs are sort of Goldilocks in nature. We're not looking for too much of anything, and we're not looking for too little. When we see blood results, lab reports, and you go, oh, you weren't high in anything and you weren't low in anything. Well, it's the same is true in the world of nutrition. We're not looking to be too high or too low in any specific nutrient or in ratios of nutrients to other nutrients. So it's odd that in the marketing world of nutrition, people always market more of this and more of that as if that was somehow better, when the lab reports say, no, that's not better. We don't want more. We don't want to go overboard. The other thing we learned about supplementation was that supplementation will do no benefit to anyone unless they have a deficiency. So I would never tell a person to take X, Y, or Z supplement unless they had a deficiency in that specific nutrient. in which case we would supplement in order to save the life or minimize suffering or whatever, whatever sort of interference in the meantime kind of thing, while we look to see what was it the person was doing that resulted in this deficiency. How can we stop that from going on? Sort of the difference between mopping up the flood or turning off the source of the flood so that you don't continue to have an endless flood. So we want to solve the problem, but in the meantime, I mean, supplementing can save lives on occasion if a person has that kind of a deficiency. But to supplement as a prophylactic to having a problem, that was never taught in medical school of any kind. Nobody ever anywhere, no professional would ever go that route and say, oh yeah, supplement in advance. That I don't find that to be a sound scientific. That would be like have your arm cut off because you might have a problem with it later. It's prophylactic medicine in that sense. Supplementation doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, in my own training and then my own philosophy, I never really wanted to treat disease or run from disease or prevent disease. I grew up in a rather rural area. I knew a lot of farmers, and they dealt with disease if they had an outbreak, but mostly what farmers say to me, if I ask a farmer, how come your tomatoes are so fantastic? He says, because I give my tomatoes everything they need. Mm. And if I ask somebody else, how come your melons are so incredibly good? I know an organic farmer out in Washington. He's been farming organic on the same plot for 50 years. How come his melons are the best I've ever had? And he looked at me and he said, because I give my melons everything they need. We know that this is true. I mean, this is how 4-H Club runs flower shows, flower contests, or animal contests, prize hog. Who's going to raise the best hog? Well, the person who gives the animal exactly what it needs. This is not disease prevention. This is health causation. Mm-hmm. This is health causation while we avoid, eliminate, stay away from those things that deplete our health. So we know that if we want a baby to grow, we have to nurture them. So we need to nurture ourselves in the same way. At that point, you can begin the process of actually accumulating more health. We're hearing a lot today about people whose immune system has been depleted. They have a debt in immunities, and they're more prone to getting ill these days as a result of being locked down and shut inside for long periods of time. They actually negatively affected their own immune abilities. Well, essentially at that point, I become sort of a health assurance salesman rather than a disease prevention guy. I grew up with the idea of prevention, and Prevention magazine, was a staple when I was a kid.
I love it.
And I understand the concept, but there's thousands and thousands of conditions to try to prevent. I would be busy all day, every day, trying to prevent disease, whereas health causation requires no time at all. It just requires a lifestyle that is supportive of your health. I don't spend extra time specifically, this is what I do as part of my health protocol. I enjoy being active, so I stay active, but I don't think of it as like disease prevention or health causation. It's just, I like being active. It's fun to play. It's fun to do stuff. I enjoy learning, and I like to push myself to learn. And yes, it's challenging, but I enjoy the challenge. So certainly, if I'm so sick that everything hurts, I can't barely breathe, I'm coughing and sneezing, I have a fever, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm not going to be much of a force for good in the world. So, but if I'm healthy, if I'm vibrant, if I'm never sick, if I'm always enthusiastic, if my posture is great, if I'm happy and volunteering and being enthusiastic about the next and bubbly and bright-eyed and awake and alert and positive, people notice.
Yeah.
People really notice, and they are attracted to health. Health is the most attractive asset that a human being can possibly have. Uh, we don't, when you think about the commercials for perfume or for way cool clothing or um, almost anything that gets marketed, they don't show like people in hospitals and scars from operations. I mean, they show vibrant people skateboarding and running on the beach and kite surfing and
Right.
doing things and climbing mountains and having a good time and being at a party and dancing and
Right. We're
you know
selling a lifestyle.
so health is the most beautiful, and health is, to me, like, people say, oh, it must be so hard to take such great care of yourself, and I go, no, it's hard. It's really hard to be sick. I mean,
Yeah.
being sick is terrible.
Yeah.
I I can't be a force for good in anybody's life. I stop influencing people. I have to take time out from doing all the things that I love to do. I feel like crap. It's just it's you start second guessing. Being healthy is so easy. It's so wonderful, so beautiful. So I don't know, maybe this sounds like I'm in the 70s, but it's really just a wonderful feeling, and people are smart enough to notice. They know, look, everybody's looking in your grocery cart. You must get comments all the time. What are you going to do with all those fruits and vegetables? Or you must be really healthy, or you know, and you wonder how many people are looking in your grocery cart. Well, practically all of them, and because they're looking for some answer, they know what they're doing isn't working. Everybody knows what they're doing isn't working. You don't have to be a genius when you see 7 out of 10 people dying of heart disease and most of the rest dying of cancer or diabetes. When you see almost everybody becoming overweight, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, to pick out the healthy people.
Right.
So they start looking around going, gee, what I'm doing isn't working. But nobody wants to give up their candy. Nobody wants to give up what they think are their treats. And I've had plenty of people in my life tell me, like, I can't give up my food because my food is the only friend I've got. My food is the only source of happiness that I've got. My food is my only pleasure in life. And I think, how sad.
I can relate to that, though. I mean, some crazy crap went on here from 2020 on, and that was a really horrible year for me. And I kind of think that that's what drove me into being a chef, because I have always had a passion for food, especially vegan food, and spreading the vegan message any way that I can. And I love making something yummy for people. But I noticed that you have on the cover of your book the word luscious, and I have on the cover of my book the word luscious. And I'm sure I was influenced by you, if subliminally and if not consciously. But I think that, you do a really great job of explaining over and over again. I've heard you say many times how pleasurable your food is. It's not about deprivation, eating raw. And the way that, I mean, I know the foods that you have, and you have a series of cookbooks, and, in my cookbooks, and, the raw foods that I've come across at raw restaurants, it hasn't been a lack of pleasure. And I found an enormous amount of pleasure in the raw foods whenever I was feeling like, yeah, food is my thing for pleasure right now because can't get out and do much else. I mean, we were going for hikes and things like that, but every day you can count on that food to be there for you, no matter what the weather is like or what else is going on. So I don't say, don't give up that idea of you can get your pleasure from food but yes, you should get pleasure from other places if you can, as much as you can. But even if you're in that horrible situation or you're on lockdown, maybe you've had lost loved ones like I did, and you have a lot of things going wrong in your life. It's nice to be able to have a really delicious peach to bite into, or a really nice mango, or something really luscious, that's juicy, this is like this gift from nature that falls right out of the tree into your hand.
People think that what I'm ascribing is somehow a hardship.
No way.
And I'm trying to express that no, it's not a hardship. Not only do I find easily as much pleasure in the food that I eat now as I did with any food that I ever ate, perhaps more. I mean, I ate some lychees the other day that my eyes just opened up so big. And I just go, wow, these are so good. And every week, every month, nature's providing us with something new to try, new to tempt us with. A new exciting taste comes into season. I'm eating sweet and juicy. I mean, it's everybody's favorite. Sweet and juicy is everybody's favorite. It's just some people have coffee and cake, and some people have ice cream and cookies, or milk and cookies, and some people have pie and ice cream. But everybody's eating and looking for that sweet, juicy shot at the end of their meal. And I feel so blessed. I'm having sweet and juicy for my entire meal. I'm like, wow, how lucky could I possibly be to have stumbled into this reality where I had to just think for myself for a little bit. And so I think for myself, and I develop the abilities to think for myself rather than just do what everybody says or do what everybody does. Because I know if I do what everybody else does, I'm going to get what everybody else gets. And I don't particularly want any of what they're getting. I don't want the diseases. I don't want the infirmities. I don't want the going out in parts concept. I want to be active and be able to go out and play with my dogs or with my kids. I want to go out and have a good time. I want to have the energy to put in a very full day every day. I love that everything still works just fine. Put that wherever you want to put it, but everything still works. And I enjoy that tremendously. I've lost friends already. I've buried friends, and it's not my idea of a good time. I think we're supposed to be here for a good long while. And I'm not telling anybody, hey, you'll live longer, although you will, because we already know that vegetarians on average live about 8 years longer than mainstream people, and vegans about another 7 years longer than that.
But it's the quality of life that we enjoy that's more important. I feel like it's like, whether you want to live a lot of years or not, you want the years that you're here to be good quality years where you can enjoy it. You don't want to be in and out of the hospital, having parts of your colon removed, having a stent put in your heart, all these things that mainstream most people go through. I'm 51 now, and at this age is the age that so many people, I know my relatives, my grandparents, both were in the hospital, in and out, starting around this age. And I don't want that. I want to be able to be like Doug Graham. I want to be out swimming in the river in Costa Rica and hiking around. I mean, I could hardly keep up with you hiking. It's insane how amazing your cardiovascular health is. And just to be able to live life to the fullest is what it's about to me.
Well, for sure it is for me too. And I want to enjoy every bit of every day that I possibly can. And when things don't go the way I want them to, it doesn't mean I don't enjoy. You said an interesting thing though in the one that was the big long section, and that in some ways sort of brought an idea that we get everything we need from our food, or all our nutrition is in our food, and I just like to go on record and say no, it's not. We don't for several reasons. First of all, a lot of nutrition has to do with attitude. A lot of nutrition has to do with sunlight. A lot of nutrition, we depend upon microbes in order to manufacture various nutrients that we can't get without microbes. We don't get everything from our food, but even if we did, it wouldn't disease proof us. It wouldn't accident proof us, and it wouldn't illness proof us in any way. Well, in some ways, but certainly not in all ways, because a lot of things have to do with a lot of things in our health have to do with things other than food. Food isn't the only answer. It's sort of like the old story about money isn't everything, but it's way ahead of whatever's in second place.
Yeah.
Sort of the same thing with food. Food isn't the cause of all of mankind's problems, but it's sure way ahead of whatever's in second place. And in that category, like so many illnesses and so many diseases could be prevented, would never even be part of the mindset. There'd be no awareness of them at all if it weren't for the foods we're eating that are causing these problems. Some of them rather quickly, and some of them over a long, slow accumulating process. Osteoporosis as a case in point, we lose perhaps 1% of our bone density per year starting around age 20. It takes a good long while before you've lost so much calcium that you start having spontaneous fractures. That could be 50 years, that could be 60 years. But who wants to start having spontaneous fractures? I sure don't. And although that can't be prevented solely with diet, the problem can be accelerated by diet to the point where it happens in 30 years and you start having, you could be like 50 years old and start having spontaneous fractures. And that's really bad if you intend to live to 80, because the next 30 years are just going to be hellish.
Yeah.
So yes, life plays a part. There's got to be some resistance. In order for bones to get stronger, muscles have to work hard. There has to be load in order for bones to get stronger, but they won't. And this is taught by the mainstream doctors. I've had many mainstream doctors look me in the eye and say, exercise will not help osteoporosis. And they know this isn't true. Load does help, but it won't help reverse osteoporosis if it's not accompanied by a diet change, because it's the diet that's accelerating the osteoporosis. And without that diet, you can still get osteoporotic if you never take a load. But if you start carrying heavy things, picking up heavy things, lifting heavy things overhead, all of that stuff makes a difference as to whether or not bone density is going to occur. Bones develop like calluses. They develop when they're needed. So health is quite a symphony, hundreds of thousands of cells, or hundreds of trillions of cells doing thousands of things each every second of every day, and it all has to be choreographed. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal, just incredible that all of that can happen in a coordinated way. And we end up, with cells perfectly reproducing themselves even. It's a magnificent show. And I want the show to go on. I want to enjoy that. I want other people to enjoy it. For me, being able to help others with their health is the greatest tickle. Being a force for good in the world, phenomenal to me.
Well, you're definitely that. And yeah, as I mentioned, your book is the Bible for raw foodists. So you're definitely the guy to ask. Let's
Thank
ask
you.
the big question that everybody wants to know. If you're a healthy vegan and you're not so sure about this raw food thing, the big question is why raw? Why, I know from myself, I just recently went raw. I've been eating mostly raw for 31 years that I've been vegan. So it was smoothies in the morning usually, and salad for lunch. And then sometimes I would have some kind of cooked dinner. But now it's all raw, and it has made a huge difference. And you know how, I don't know if I'm sure when you've been counseling people for health over these years, you've had people say things to you like, I think I eat pretty healthy. I don't understand why this thing is going wrong or that health thing isn't really clearing up, because I eat pretty healthy, or I eat really clean most of the time. I feel like maybe I was one of those people about the healthiest part is, I was all organic vegan. I think by most people's standards, I was pretty extremely healthy as far as my diet goes. But then I compare myself to you and your 80-10-10 plan, and I realized so many areas where I could make improvements. And whenever I did eat as you prescribe in your book, I noticed so many improvements in my energy level, in my sleep, and my skin, and there's so many little things that all add up to my digestion. My stomach's flat instead of feeling bloated after I eat, and I still have all this energy, and I don't feel hungry, but I don't feel bloated. Wow, I didn't know that could happen. And even though I was eating raw half the day, I was used to ending up at night having this extremely full feeling to where it was almost uncomfortable to lay down and go to sleep. And I don't have that anymore because I'm eating all raw, and food is just like digesting like crazy, and it's not getting slowed down in there and hampered. So the enzyme thing turns out is huge. I've been hearing this for years, that when you cook food, it kills the enzymes. And I didn't really know what the science was on that. I'd never taken the time to look it up, which that is totally on me, because the science is definitely there. And I have some of it pulled up here that I wanted to show. But first, I want to let you address it. Why do you think raw is superior to eating cooked food? Because I know you could give us an earful, and I'll let you go on about that for a few minutes, and then we'll get into your powerlifting.
Well, there's two ways to look at this, and I've done presentations, hour long, 2 hours long, even, from either side, and it depends which side you want to go with. If we start from the natural side, from the nature side, and we realize that every creature on earth eats raw food, this is a model, a pretty obvious model of what works best in the world. On planet Earth, raw food is the law. It's the norm. It's the pattern that's been set. And there are creatures that will eat cooked food if we make it for them, but there's no creature that naturally cooks its food. So we have no rationale to think that cooked would be better for us. Now, we do some tricks with nutrition, and you can find out that there are a few nutrients that either aren't lost in the cooking process or actually become a bit more accessible in the cooking process. But we don't have science to show that we need more of those things, or that more is better. We go back to the Goldilocks idea. We don't have anything to suggest that we need more. It's just that, yes, maybe you get a little more. But when we know that there are 100,000 plus nutrients in the world, and only about 100 of them, so 1 in 1,000, becomes more available when we heat. The other 999 become less available, damaged, deranged, or destroyed outright. And the damaged isn't so bad in and of itself, except that bad things happen as a result. It's not that we need to have so much of this or that nutrient, but they get damaged in ways that cause other adverse reactions. So one of them, for instance, is that some of these nutrients can have specific uptake sites. And if a damaged nutrient goes into the uptake site, it blocks that uptake site from then being able to take on usable nutrients. So you get sort of a double whammy. You don't get nutrient, and the site becomes dysfunctional. So it's kind of like putting a cork in a bottle, and then you can't stuff anything else into the bottle. Well, this is a problem, especially the one we know most about is B12, where you start to get damaged B12 going in, and it doesn't work like the real thing. So this is a problem. Another thing that happens is that there are 5 different kinds of what I call gens. Gens are the origin of things. So there's a carcinogen, the origins of cancer. And we know that when you heat foods, you create carcinogens, a host of carcinogens. We know that you create mutagens, and mutagens are what prevent cells from reproducing themselves perfectly. When that happens, this accelerates what we know as aging. So if you want to get old fast, you get more mutagens in your diet, and they're found in cooked food where there's none in raw foods, no mutagens. We see tremorogens and tumorigens, again, the origin of tremors and tumors. We find these in cooked food. We don't find them in raw food. And the last one is known as a teratogen. And the teratogen, excuse me, a doggy wants to come in. The teratogen doesn't overtly affect your health negatively. Like, you can't really tell anything bad happened until the next generation or the next generation after that. We talk about toxins accumulating in the food chain. We talk about the damaging effect of teratogens on our offspring. The classic example was thalidomide back in the 60s, where, you know, it helped the mom, but their babies were born with no arms and no legs, just hands and feet sticking out of their shoulders and hips. I mean, it was terrible. And that's the effect of a teratogen. But we see these same types of teratogens in cooked food, and we don't see them in raw. This is huge. But the flip side is, as you say, all of a sudden your physical coordination improves, your mental coordination, your ability to learn, your ability to remember, your ability to access information that's already inside your head, your whole attitude towards life, your insights, your ability to connect the dots and see things. Of course, when you feel better, your outlook becomes more positive. It starts cycling around, filling itself more and more. I'm not saying, I'm not a human being. I still experience the full range of emotions. In fact, I feel my emotions a lot more on raw food than I did on cooked, because a lot of times I used cooked food to dumb myself down and numb myself from feeling my emotions. I would stuff them back down, and I've become more of a person. It's a richer life for me, not only because I'm feeling healthy, but because I'm more of my potential. I hit much more of my potential by taking the stumbling blocks out of the way. So why raw? Because it's not bad for you, and it is good for you. And the science is in. The science has been in since the late 19 teens. So for over 100 years, we've already had science showing us negative effects of eating cooked food. First one, I believe, was Pottinger's cats. The next one was Dr. Maillard in the late 20s. By the time we got into the 50s and science was starting to catch up with chemistry, we realized that every time you heat up meats, we're creating carcinogens. And since then, as I say, we now know about at least 5 different gens. We also know about something called anti-nutrients. And anti-nutrients are things that cause us to need more of a specific nutrient. For instance, smoking a cigarette is an anti-nutrient for vitamin C. It increases your overall need for vitamin C. I remember seeing people when this first came out, and they would smoke a cigarette and take a vitamin C tablet with each cigarette. But I mean, that's only one thing it's doing. The cigarette was doing thousands of other things. So it was fun. But anyway, so an anti-nutrient, and every once in a while you will find an anti-nutrient in raw food. For instance, in spinach, there's an anti-nutrient for calcium. And this is a good thing, it turns out, because there's so much calcium in spinach that if you didn't have the anti-nutrient there, you'd be overloading your system with calcium. I mean, you'd be ending up with stones. So instead, the phytic acid combined with the calcium, and that way it keeps it at safer levels. But the anti-nutrients in cooked food, we don't need these. They're not to our advantage. So there's a lot of chemistry, a tremendous amount of nutrition. The facts are in, but they're not accumulated in very many places, which is why I say I did what's called a key talk. KEY is an acronym for knowledge empowers you. And I did a key talk on the problems associated with cooked food to try to put all this science into one place. For me, I eat raw foods because they get me the results I want better than anything else I could ever eat. So I feel better than any other way of eating. I've tried a lot of ways of eating. I eat raw because it's the most rewarding way to eat.
Is there a way that people can access this key talk and see all the science that you accumulate?
Oh yeah, that's on my website on foodandsport.com.
Oh, great.
And letters, word food, the letter N, the word sport. Foodandsport.com. It's on the homepage. You can go to educational products and see knowledge empowers you as one. I did a whole series of key talks.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but this blew my mind today when I was looking. I was like, let me pull up some quick science on the enzyme thing. And I found, they have all these online high school courses now that came out because of the pandemic. And I found all these high school biology classes where they had discussions about what enzymes are. And every single one of them talked about how when you heat food up, for instance, they use this as an example over and over again in all these high school biology classes. So this is like basic knowledge that everybody's getting nowadays. When you heat food up above a certain temperature, which it was somewhere between 113 and 120 degrees for different things. And they were talking about how what an enzyme is. It's the protein, it's a catalyst that helps your body digest food. It catalyzes the processes that happen in the body. And when you heat food up past a certain temperature, it's gone past what they call as optimal temperature. And as soon as food goes past its an enzyme goes past its optimal temperature, it stops working.
Yes, it becomes.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we say that the enzymes die in heat, it sounds like hyperbole to people, and they think, oh, well, maybe a few enzymes die. Maybe we don't need that many, or maybe we can somehow digest the food without the enzymes. It's like, no, that's why I was feeling so bloated at the end of the day every day. It makes total sense. And I feel so clean and so, different now that everything is just digesting so well that I've got all these enzymes now. And to see that kids are learning this in their high school biology classes now really gives me hope for the future for people eating healthier. But I don't know. I don't know how many kids are like looking at that and going, oh, okay, now I'm going to go raw tomorrow. But I think they might need to read your book on top because you explain how to do it healthy.
Yeah, this is quite a can of worms. This is quite a thing because I spoke with Dr. Howell before he died. I spoke with him on the telephone. That's what you used to do, as you call people up. And I asked him about the whole enzyme thing because he wrote the book. that got the whole enzyme nutrition idea started. I don't know when he wrote the book, somewhere in the 80s. And but I also did my homework, and I learned a nursery rhyme called Humpty Dumpty. So I saw Humpty Dumpty, and once it falls, you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Once you cook an egg, you can't uncook an egg.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 80s, they had those TV commercials, this is your brain on cooked food, except they said your brain on drugs, right? But they used the same thing of frying an egg, going, because the drug users, they say my brain is fried. But so when my food is fried, once again, what we see happen is the same thing that happens if you hold a hair over an open flame. Pretty much every inquisitive kid has held a piece of hair over a fire, and it changes shape. It curls up dramatically, and then you can't pull it back out into that strand formation. Well, the chemistry behind all that is well known and has been known for quite some time. What this is called is enzyme resistant bonds. So when proteins are heated, the molecular bonds are actually broken apart, and then they come back together, but they get twisted, like the hair twisted, and they go back together in a different form. This is called recombinant chemistry. And at that point, the proteins are unrecognizable to the human digestive system, to the human bloodstream, to what are called our immune defenses, or our immune functions. And so we have now enzyme resistant bonds, meaning that the molecules that were supposed to break down from proteins into smaller pieces, proteols, and then polypeptides, and then eventually dipeptides, and subsequently individual amino acids, because that's what the body needs, is to start with those amino acids, put them back together in order to create the proteins we need. We can't just eat the proteins we need and use them as is. You can't just eat eyes and end up with better eyes, or eat brain and end up with better brain, or eat fingers or toes. It doesn't work that way. We have to break everything down into its component parts, but we cannot break things into their component parts if enzyme resistant bonds were formed in the molecule structures themselves, at which point the digestive system says, wow, we can't break this stuff down. It's going to have to go into the bloodstream as polypeptides rather than individual amino acids. Well, those polypeptides are essentially foreign proteins. As far as the body's concerned, they don't belong in the bloodstream. That's not what we're designed for. And so two things happen. First, we attack those with white blood cells, and you get what's in chemistry called the white tide, where our white blood cell count, which normally is around 3 million, runs up to 15 to 18 million, which is a crazy, crazy range. Imagine if your temperature went up by 5 times, and you went up to 500 instead of just 105, and we think 105 is dangerous. Imagine what 500 would be like. Or if your heart rate went up from the normal and it went up by 5 times, and all of a sudden you're beating at 300 times a minute, you're fibrillating. So but it's recognized as normal only because it happens to everyone after every meal. The second thing is our immune functions kick in to help us eliminate these foreign proteins and get rid of them, because we can't utilize them. They are enzyme resistant. Now, as far as the enzymes themselves being of some value, I question that highly. if we look at what enzymes are and what they do, we manufacture our own roughly 1,000 different enzymes. Some people say as many as 10,000, but at least 1,000 different enzymes. We manufacture our own in order to make all the things happen. Enzymes work kind of like the key to get in your door. They're not really part of the door, and they have nothing to do with what you're going to do once you go through the door. And after you use the key, you take it out of the lock and you can use it again and again and again. That's how enzymes are designed. They're not actually part of the reaction. So this whole idea that, oh, we need enzymes, we need more enzymes, da 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 da. Not from our food, we don't. The enzymes in food are there so that the food can be what it is. They don't digest the food per se, or the almonds on your shelf would digest themselves, but they don't. Those enzymes are there in order for an almond to sprout. So as far as, I mean, we don't need to sprout. We don't want the food we eat to sprout. We don't need the sprouting enzymes or sprout resistor enzymes. There's those as well. When we soak foods, for instance, especially nuts and seeds, we wash away the sprout or inactivate the sprout resisting enzymes so that the food can then sprout. But we don't per se need those enzymes that are in food in order to help us digest our food. We create our own amylase and lipase and protease to deal with the things that need digestion. I think people get lost in this whole digestion thing because I go out on a limb and say almost everything we eat doesn't require digestion. When you say, wow, my digestive system's working so much better. Wow, my tummy's so much flatter. Wow, so many good things are happening in that zone. It's because you're reducing the workload on your digestive system by eating raw foods. When you eat that peach and we look at what's in a peach and we go, well, there's water in a peach. Well, I mean, it's 7% water or 98% water by weight. There's water in a peach. Water requires no digestion. There's fiber in a peach. We can't digest fiber. Humans don't digest fiber. It just passes through. There are some microbes that can, but we can't. There's vitamins. Well, we take the vitamins as is. There's minerals. We take the minerals as is. There's protein, fat, and we have to digest the protein and fat. Well, there's not a lot of protein in fruit. There's 5, 6, 7% of calories. There's way less fat, usually 3, 4, 5% of calories. And some 90 plus percent of the total calories in fruit are coming from glucose and fructose, two sugars that require no digestion in order to be absorbed. It's a fascinating thing. At that point, we're saying, wow, the only thing we really need to digest from a peach is the protein and fat, and there's not much of it. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm going against the common grain there. I am aware of the fact that I'm going against the grain, but I'm not going to make a big deal about enzymes in foods in terms of how important they are for us. Yes, do we inactivate them? Yes. Does that possibly change the taste of a food? Yes. Is it mean that the proteins have been negatively affected, doing all those other gens and anti-nutrients and other problems that happen, creating toxic matter that's foreign to the body as proteins get in that weren't supposed to because of enzyme resistant bonds? Yes, all that, but not because we need the enzymes in food so badly. We don't. We need individual amino acids we need fat and carbohydrate, and we don't take in enzymes and then use them.
Okay. Well, that was a lot of heavy science, so I hope we didn't lose anybody with that. But I'm glad that you explained all of that. And
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I never think of me as a person able to deal with heavy, like I kind of like dumb down heavy science. So in a way, I'm honored that you say that is heavy science, but yeah, maybe I didn't. I mean, in my head, I had a lot of pictures of what was happening. I hope they were in my listeners' heads as well. There were some pictures going on in there.
oh, I loved it, but I feel like for some people they just want to know it makes you feel good, keeps your stomach flat. That's all I need to know. But
Exactly.
getting the full discussion of why it makes you feel better and what it is that's going on
Well,
scientifically.
it's nice to know it's rooted in not just common sense, but also in science. The science supports the common sense,
Mhm.
and we can get as detailed as you want. And the
Mhm.
more detailed we get, the more the science supports the common sense.
Right. Well, I feel like it supports my spiritual beliefs, because when you learn all of these things about, like you were saying, I can't remember it was spinach, where you were talking about the calcium that's in it, but there's something in it that, everybody's made a big deal out of, that binds the calcium. When you're saying, well, you have so much calcium there that it would be too much. I find the same thing is true about those vegetables that are very high in sodium. And we know how damaging sodium can be to the vascular system. And then you find out those very same vegetables, your chard, your beet greens, your celeries, and things like that, they're high in sodium, are also high in nitric oxide. So that protects your vascular lining. And that, there's so many things that we could look at like that. As far as the enzymes go, the thing that I thought was so neat is that the optimum temperature for enzymes to function at their best from food is the same as body temperature, is 98.6 Fahrenheit, which I don't know what it is centigrade, but anyway, I just thought that was so neat that it seems like everything is set up in nature with this perfect wisdom to provide us exactly what we need in the right proportions, combined with other things that we also need to balance things out properly. And the only time that we get into trouble is when we start messing with nature. Either we heat things up, which not what nature intended, or we take it apart and extract things out of it like we do with oil, and that's obviously a fractionated food. We do that with so many foods, where you end up with just bits and pieces of what nature intended, and it's supposed to be eaten together as a whole food in its natural form. And that's when it's just so beautiful to know that.
I agree with you. When I was a teenager, I had a T-shirt of a mad scientist, and he was in his chem lab, and there's Bunsen burners and vessel flasks and things and smoke and colors, and but he was definitely a mad scientist. I mean, his hair was out like crazy, and his eyes were it was all cartoon style, but the caption was "Better Living Through Chemistry." And at the time, it was making fun of LSD. So it was LSD, better living through chemistry. But, I never forgot that concept that we can't improve on nature's plan. We can try again and again and again to improve on nature's plan, but that's never, ever going to happen. The way it is in nature is always better. And yes, we can rob from Peter to pay Paul a little bit here and there, but we're also going to suffer the consequences. So you can take iPads in order to grow trapezius muscles when you train, because the trapezius muscles are androgenic and don't tend to get big. And if you take the iPads, well, then you can grow bigger. But you're also going to be like destroying your kidneys in the process.
Mhm.
And that's robbing Peter to pay Paul. I don't, for me personally, I'm not looking to stimulate or irritate or aggravate or supplement myself into some health form. I don't see for a second, it's never, you can hit me with a cattle prod and I'll run faster, but I'm going to get tired. And I'd do much better to just keep running at my own pace than I would to be stimulated or irritated. All this idea of we're going to flush people into health, we're going to stimulate them into health, we're going to force health into them, whether they like it or not. We're going to make health happen in 3 days. We're going to give you no food, no water. We'll give you some salt, and that's it. And that'll be the fastest way to get your health back. We're going to flush you. We're going to prod you. We're going to poke you with needles. I'm just not seeing that as any of what was lovingly referred to as nature's 7 doctors way back when, and we get our fresh air and sunshine and sufficient water and food, fruits and vegetables. You get enough sleep. You stay active. You maintain a positive mental attitude, and this is where health comes from. If you want to accumulate some health, live healthfully. There are no shortcuts, and the sooner people buy that, I think the happier they can be. It's very frustrating. I'll take a simple example, right? Like, how many hundreds of thousands of women had breast enlargements with implants, who then had the implants removed later on because the implants were causing health problems. It's nuts. There's not better living through chemistry. It's not, you're not going to make improvements on nature. But what's so cool is that if you do take good care of yourself, you find out that you have so much more potential than you ever could have imagined was possible. And when I first wrote 80-10-10, I lived the program for 10 years before I wrote the book. I didn't say a word for 10 years and then spent 5 more years writing it. So by the time I came out with the book and started lecturing, I was telling people, you can extend your athletic career pretty predictably 5 to 10 years. And I was wrong, because here I am going to be 70 in a couple of months, and my athletic career is still going strong. So it's a lot more life than I was even realizing at the time. The raw food program is, to me, it's the only way to go. It's simply the only way to go. And any responsible zoologist or zookeeper, if you will, any responsible one is going to be feeding their animals raw food, because that's nature's plan. And it's no different from us. We're not that different from all the other anthropoid primates. There is a science known as comparative anatomy, where they use as their key phrase that the animals that are anatomically and physiologically similar thrive, not just do okay, but thrive on similar foods. And so we see deer and antelope and horses and cows, they all graze. And it's not all graze on the exact same grass necessarily, the exact same plant, but it's similar in the way that they all graze. And all the animals that look like carnivores, they all chase down living prey and enjoy doing that. All of the animals that are anatomically and physiologically built like us eat primarily fruit and a little bit of veg. End of story. There's no question what we're supposed to be eating. It's just, can you be happy with your life, or are you only happy with the cigarette in your life, with the pizza in your life, with with whatever the fix happens to be at the moment? Or are you ready to embrace living a full and healthy life, vibrant and active, and have let the pleasures be the fact that you and I can have a conversation, or even occasionally just look each other in the eye and go, wow, that's just amazing what's going on between us when we connect. And this is the time of year when people should be connecting the most, right? I mean, just had our Thanksgiving and about to have a whole bunch more holidays. Great. For some people, the holidays is all about the food and the drugs and the alcohol and that's all it is. It's just the substance abuse party. For others, it's about the people and enjoying them and appreciating them and making them feel better about themselves and giving them good reason and helping people with their problems. It's a time of year for giving. I know if I don't have my own health, it's hard for me to give to others. All I care about is my own health, getting my own health back. That becomes my priority. So in many ways for me, I think health is the most important thing. Everything else rests on you having your health. One of the keys to that is eating raw foods, the 80-10-10 style.
Absolutely. And I do think that it's good that you brought up the holidays, because I mean, if people are concerned about not being able to eat pleasurably during the holidays, they should look at some of the recipes that are out amongst us raw food people. I mean, my cookbook that I just came out with, not to just plug myself shamelessly, but entertaining. It's 100 pages of 50 recipes, I think, of amazing show-stopping recipes, and you have amazing recipes in your books too. So there's no downside to this when you feel so great and you get to also enjoy the pleasure of food on a new level. And I feel sorry for the people who can have nothing but the cigarettes and the pizza and think that that's where pleasure is going to come from, because if they would just try this lifestyle, they would just be like all the rest of the raw food people. I mean, we are the most proselytizing, excited, enthusiastic people when you ask us about how we feel on our diet, because we feel so vibrant and healthy. We just want to tell everybody about how great we feel. So I think
this is where, the old expression, come on in, the water's fine.
yeah,
Right? Like, it's so good. This whole raw food thing is so good. Eating fruit is so rewarding, so pleasurable in so many ways. Like, I want everybody to experience it, but it also would be better for me if they did, because can you imagine how much produce would be in the grocery store if everybody wanted produce? How many varieties of fantastic produce would be there if it was normal for everybody to fill their carts with fruits and vegetables? By the way, fruits and vegetables are the lowest carbon producing, and fruits and vegetables produce more food per acre than any other food. A vegan diet will take about 1/40th as much space as an animal-based diet, but a raw vegan diet takes a cooked vegan diet takes 2.5 times as much land to create food as a raw vegan diet. So a raw vegan diet uses 1/100th of what a cooked carnivore diet, and only 20%. Is that right? No, 30. I don't know how to do it in percent, but 2.5 times less, if there's a way to say that properly.
let me plug your other book. This is an old one, but it's a goodie. Grain Damage. You talk a lot in there about agriculture and about how eating grains is actually not the best use of land compared to fruit, because if you're having fruit trees, obviously, and the types of veg that we'll eat on a raw diet, which will be things like green beans and things that people don't even consider to be fruit, but they are fruits. And there's very few foods that are true vegetables, like maybe zucchini. I don't even know, because that does have the seeds too. But lettuce, and I mean our greens, I suppose, would be where we cross over. But yeah, those things don't take up a whole lot of room, and yeah, they take less water, less maintenance in general. So yeah, that really good environmental argument for this diet as well. So if you want to do it for New Year's 2023 and go raw, I definitely recommend that you get a hold of Doug Graham's books, you get a hold of my cookbooks, you get a hold of Doug's cookbooks, and we'll help you through this. And it'll be fun and easy, and we'll all do it as a community. And Doug, you have a retreat coming up in January. That might be a great way for people to start off the new year. I know you're going to do some fasting. Want to tell us about that?
Well, a little bit. I run a 2-part program. The one part is supervised fasting and recover from the fast. It's about 2/3 of the time fasting and 1/3 time recovering. So it's fast and feast, if you will. But for people who aren't quite ready to do that, I also run an educational program where we have 5 classes per day during that whole time down in Costa Rica. So we're down in Costa Rica. We're having 5 classes a day. You get to help making food and learn from my chef, all the tricks of the trade, as it were. So, and then I'm teaching a fitness class, and then four lessons on health accumulation. So part of that is focused on your individual health problems of you and your family and loved ones. Part of it is just understanding enough of how the body works and how things are in nature so that we can understand the rationale for building health. Are colonics part of a health program, or supplements, or whatever it might be? And so we look at a lot of different angles to see how to create the physique you want, how to create and accumulate the health you want, how to have the vibrancy, how do athletes do things differently than anybody else. And that's, again, you say shameless plug. So I'll say shameless plug for being athletic, for being active. I know plenty of people who consume 1,000 calories a day that are very lightweight people, very inactive, very sedentary, and they hold their weight on 1,000 calories a day. But I also know plenty of active young men who are eating 4,000 calories a day and holding their weight, but they're being active. They're burning those extra calories in fitness activities. And when people ask me about nutrition, and I go, if you're only eating 1,000 calories a day, it's pretty hard to be well nourished.
Mhm.
If you're only eating 1,000 calories a day, you're not taking in much calcium, you're not taking in much iron, you're not taking in much protein, or whatever it might be. Compare that to a person eating 4 times as much, they're getting 4 times as much. The way to get enough of this, that, or the other nutrient is to be an active individual and raise your caloric needs a bit.
Mhm. Right, because there's more to being healthy than, like you said, than diet. Is also moving your body around, lifting a little weight. There's so many things that we have to do to keep our bodies in optimum condition. And not even if you don't want to be an athlete, if you don't want to herniate a disc when you lift up a heavy grocery bag, or you want to be able to, if you have a fall, you want to be able to catch yourself without breaking your wrists and your knees. There's so many just things that we take for granted that happen, especially as you get older. But I mean, young people fall too. There's all kinds of accidents that can happen that you are going to get hurt a lot worse if you're not keeping your muscles strong and your bones strong.
And your coordination levels high.
Yes.
So lots of falls are eliminated if you just stay coordinated.
Yes. Well, you know what? Let's end this with a grand finale talking about your athleticism. I probably should have started asking you about this stuff, but we'll just
It's
use it with the grand finale.
fascinating thing, when I came to Europe 20 years ago, 22 years ago, I moved to Europe, and here I'm not considered an athlete. In the States, I'm considered an athlete, and lots of people are considered athletes. But in Europe, you're only considered an athlete if you earn your living from athletics. An interesting distinction. So they would call me a fit person, but they wouldn't use the phrase athlete. So if I make a distinction, there are lots of things different on each side of the pond, right? So for me, I don't, in the sense that the Europeans don't think of me as an athlete, I don't either. I don't earn my living as an athlete. I just stay fit enough to enjoy my life, and knowing that fitness is part of what gives me credibility, is that I am fit. So it, in a sense, is part of my work, but not that much really. I just do it because I like it. It's fun. I,
Humble.
I like moving around. It's good. I was ice skating yesterday out on a pond, and go lifting tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. And,
Yeah, so tell us about the powerlifting. You're
well,
powerlifting at almost 70 years old. I mean, if the British don't want to call you an athlete, that's fine. It's the difference between an aubergine and an eggplant, I guess. It's the same
yeah,
thing.
I'm not sure which I am, but well, I never lifted weights as a kid. I was fascinated with strength, but I never lifted weights. And I did things for strength, but it was always body weight oriented. It was never particularly a coordinated effort. It was never, it was always it was always in starts and stops, little spurts here and there. But I was interested. And and then I got into cardio in my 30s, and I really got taken by it, and did a lot of cardio for 30 years or so. Um, from triathlons and ultras and 10K events and 11s and century rides and ultra swims and all sorts of stuff, cardio. It was great fun. And it wasn't until about 12 years ago that I realized in my own head, I go, you know what? I'm sitting down a lot. I'm not as active as I used to be, strictly because I do so much more on a computer than I used to. I'm doing so much more in my house compared to what I used to do, and so I just so, maybe a little strength training would be good. So I by chance met some guys who said, yeah, we'll show you what we do. And they did. And they were very, very kind to me and very supportive of my efforts. And they taught me how to power lift, which perfectly suited my needs, as opposed to Olympic lifting, which is a much faster thing. Powerlifting was more about pure strength. So I wanted to develop pure strength. I've learned the science about developing strength without developing size. I don't want to add any weight. I'm not looking to get huge muscles. I'm looking to get strong muscles. And over that decade, I've doubled my ability to squat. I've doubled my deadlift. My bench press went up 25%. And I'm doing well enough at this point that I qualified this year for national championships, which will be in June. I think in June this coming year. I've qualified before, but I've never gone. This year, I'm thinking I will go to national championships with the intention of being on the podium.
Awesome. So you started powerlifting around the age of 60, and you improved strength immensely as you're approaching 70. I mean, there's people out there who would think that that's not even possible. So I just love the shining example that age is really just a number, and you can keep improving yourself and keep being athletic. It doesn't matter what your age is. It's the state of mind, it's your health, it's your lifestyle. There's so many more things than,
Sure, and it's proper training, and I was very fortunate that I fell in with some guys who knew how to train right. They'd been doing it for 30 years and more.
Who are they? Do you want to plug them? I know I saw one of them on Facebook.
No, I mean, it's just the guys I train with, my local friends, but they're just big guys. None of them, they've all been to national championships, and but none of them make their living at it. It's just a hobby, something they do at the end of a work day.
I know.
And I'm
Isn't there a younger gentleman who has a YouTube show that's about the raw diet, who was posting videos of you that he was there when you qualified? I was Just
Oh
thinking.
yeah, sure. Chris Kendall came to the last competition I did where I qualified for national championships. And I didn't know he was filming me even, but it turns out he filmed all my lifts and interviewed me a couple of times. Those I knew, obviously he was interviewing, but the rest of the time I didn't know. And then he put something together. It's kind of fun. And I believe I think it's just on his channel. I don't even think it's on mine, but he just talks about, Dr. Doug Graham powerlifting at age 70 years of age. It's kind of fun. I I don't I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. I I honestly don't think it's a big deal. It's sort of funny. I think the big deal is that there's people my age who are not getting out and having a good time. I think it's a big deal that people are hospitalized or wheelchair bound or aren't going out for a walk or a run or a ride or a swim or a ski or a row. They're not doing stuff. That to me is a big deal. Like the world is closing in around them. And I would be very concerned if my ability to go out into the world was shutting down. That's a big deal. But the fact that I'm still living and that I'm still enjoying, it's kind of funny, isn't it? That's a big deal.
It is. And I think it's also another good thing to point out is that you're still coaching people. And so I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, I'm coaching. I'm having more fun coaching people in their health and especially in their strength gains, or in osteoporosis prevention.
I know you got well known for coaching Martina Navratilova, when she was world champion in tennis, and that you were coaching her to eat raw, and so many.
Yeah, and
There's been
she
so
did
many
well.
big athletes since then. I don't know if you want to drop a bunch of names or anything, but we can just say
A lot of pros.
a
I've
lot
worked with a lot of professional athletes. Most recently with Michael Porter Jr., who's a star over with the Denver Nuggets and making quite a name for himself over there. Spent 2 years coaching him. But anybody who's motivated to be their best or wants to improve, wants to recover from osteoporosis, wants to improve in any particular sport, I can show you how to do that. And performance coach is about what you would say I'm doing at this point. How to be your best. That thrills me when I see people who are motivated to be their best.
awesome.
So I'll give you 100% if you'll give me 100%.
Well, thank you for giving us your 100% today. So we'll just remind everybody, if they're interested in finding out more about any of your coaching services, your books, all of that stuff, they can go to foodandsport.com.
Yep, it's all one word, 10 letters, just the letter N in the middle between food and sport.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. Hopefully we'll do this again sometime. Who knows, maybe we'll even have our own podcast.
What a treat, Brenda, a real treat. Thanks for having me on. I know we're going by B now, sorry. What a treat to be able to spend time and to feel your enthusiasm and I can honestly say, like, since we first few times that we talked, to see how much you've grown and changed and embraced and your willingness and openness to do that. I praise you for that, because so many people think they've arrived and their learning curve is done, whereas you've bravely tried some new stuff and been thrilled with the results, which I think those results provide their own motivation. Like, why would you go back if what you're doing is working better than what you were doing? So bless you for trying new things. Thanks for letting me reach out to people. If there's ever anything I can do for you or yours, just let me know.
Thank you. Same here. Namaste. Take care. Peace.
Okay, you're off.
Okay, we're off YouTube.
Yeah, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Truly my pleasure.
So that was
Truly
the first time using this platform. What was it called?
YouTube Live?
Oh, this is an actual YouTube thing?
Oh, no, this is Zoom. So.
Oh, okay, we did use Zoom, okay. Well, I guess I could have done that, I know how to do that. Brian was doing all this research and I thought we were gonna use all these new things. Anyway, that went really well. Thank you
My
so
treat.
I
My
know-
treat.
late there,
Okay.
so I won't hold you up, but let's talk again soon.
You know that's coming.
Next
I know
Sunday
what
is Christmas and then the next Sunday is New Year's, so I don't know,
I'll stay in touch with you with just little snippets for now, and we'll get it together.
okay, and if you do want to do the podcast, just let me know.
I do.
Do you want it to start it while you're in Costa Rica, or do you want to wait?
Well, I'd like to get there and see what the schedule looks like, if there's actually time.
We can
'Cause
even
my-
do a 30-minute, we can do it really short. Or even
Yeah,
20
we
minutes.
can, but I just again have to see how busy the day is. If there's a day where I can do it, I most certainly will.
Awesome.
Otherwise, it'll start as soon as I get home, but I want to make it happen.
Yay. All right, makes me so happy. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks again, Brenda.
Oh, and
Talk
also,
to you soon, bro.
I'm gonna get 15 recipes to you for that new cookbook
Thank you. That'd be
working on
great.
that right now. Okay, thanks again.
All
Take
right.
care. All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Bri. Yeah.